We're going to talk about some interesting things today. First of all, I want to make another tribute to Gloria. Gloria was really the founder of Adapt Productions. I maybe had the idea a little earlier, but it wouldn't have gone anywhere without her. And we found 2 tapes that we've made with Gloria on them. Unfortunately, we're using VHS. Now, VHS, for some of you, is now obsolete. It's like 8-track. We also use the mini DV cassette. That's now becoming obsolete. So the great war of the disability people to win has been recorded somewhat, but the material it's been recorded on is getting very obsolete. It's like the Civil War. The Civil War, they took thousands of pictures, and those pictures got dark and they were thrown out and burnt. But fortunately, some people saved them, and we have a good documentary like Ken Burns, who put out a great documentary on the Civil War, using a lot of the old technology. So I'm asking again that the technology of the past must be brought forth one more time. Let's not forget the people that were there. Now, we have 2 little short clips on Gloria. One shows her accepting an award from Progress Center for the show.
So it's my honor to present this award to Adapt Production for that great work they have been doing in the community, showing the real image of people with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Believe it or not, after 11 years, we're still having fun doing the program. And we're still raising hell with whoever needs to be raised. And happy. Yeah. And happy about it. So that's our story, and that's what's going on with us. And thank you, Progress Center. Thank you again.
And you get an idea of what she was like. Then we go way back 20 years ago or so, and she tells a story about the squirrel. She's this famous squirrel story. So we found that, and we're going to run the famous squirrel story just to entertain you.
I had the craziest thing happen to me last week. It was very warm out, and I had my back door open. And I was watching TV, and all of a sudden, I saw something moving behind me, and it was a squirrel. A squirrel had come running into my apartment and went right into my bedroom. Now, I don't know from squirrels, so I'm not going to go in there chasing the darn thing. And so I was sitting there rather upset and concerned about what was going to happen. So my girlfriend came downstairs, and I said, "Hey, listen, there's a squirrel in here." She said, "What the heck's wrong with you? You got some kind of a problem?" I said, "No." I said, "There was a squirrel that literally ran in here, so she went in the other room, checked around, nothing." So I'm thinking, oh God, I'm going to have to deal with a squirrel all night. So I was kind of paranoid about it. So the next day, didn't really hear anything. The day after that, I'm hearing all kinds of rustling in the bedroom with this squirrel. And my girlfriend had come back down again, and I said, "Look, the squirrel was here." So she had her boyfriend go into my room, and he's got a mop with him, or a broom, I should say, and he's kind of swatting around it, and he can't find it either. So they leave, and what happens? All of a sudden, I'm seeing this squirrel running around in my bedroom. It wound up sitting on top of my fax machine. Then it moved over to be on top of my VCR, and my girlfriend comes back a little while later. I said, well, the squirrel is back. I said, I even saw where it went. So they went and looked where I had told them in the bedroom, no squirrel. And now everybody, there's two people looking at me like I've got three heads talking about this damn squirrel. So my girlfriend, after that, she had started vacuuming. And what was the best thing was she found a little turd on the floor, and obviously I didn't put it there, so she believed me that there really was a squirrel in the house. That's my squirrel story. It's a truth, really. It's too stupid to even lie about. And to this day, we have no clue as to where that squirrel was. Thank you.
All right, so I want to talk now about the analogy between the disability community and warfare. The people that in the disability community that go to these marches, that go to these attacks, are warriors. They're fighting for the disability rights. And we have a lot of good tape on that. People in there are majors, generals, privates. They're there. They show up. Now, Gloria showed up. She was there in the front lines, and a lot of other people are in the front lines. So I want you to watch these little snippets I've got of the Great War and the generals, and some people that were now privates who just showed up the first time and now are have good positions. I'm not naming any names because if I do, I'll forget somebody or I give a name wrong. So we're not naming anybody, but check these tapes out now that we're going to show you. So, and see if you see the people that you remember. Some of them are gone now. Some of them are gone. It's just like the Valkyrie. Now, I hate to tell you this, but I was a history teacher, and I remember very well the old Norse mythology. In the Norse mythology, the great warriors fought their battles, and if they died and fought bravely, the Valkyrie, the wind, like wind angels, women, would swoop down and gather them up and take them to the great mead halls. A mead hall was like a beer hall, where they would drink and feast and revel for eternity. And if you didn't fight very well or you ran away, you never made it to the mead hall. So I think of the disability warriors in the same way that you would think of that. They have been carried up and swept up by the Valkyrie, and now are in the great mead halls, exploiting for their exploits. Let's remember them as well as we can. Now, I want to go on to some other things right now. We are having a lot of stuff going on. There was a huge gathering of young men, old women, young people of all kinds. Just the last weekend. Gathering what? To fight gun violence. And what does this have to do with disability? Why should we join up with that? Well, think of it this way. Isn't death the ultimate disability? What does gun violence do but create more people in the disability community? So we need to join up with these people and get them to understand our point of view as well. There's a major election coming up in November, and we have to get a lot done because we've gone backwards. A lot of warriors have been fighting just to keep the things from getting worse. They're trying to undo some parts of the ADA, the Americans Disability Act. They're trying to undo that step by step. And we can't let that happen. And we've won some victories, short, small victories, though, because they keep coming back. And we've got to keep the fight going. Now, I have one other plea. People, is there a Ken Burns around somewhere that wants to make a nice, long documentary about the disability community and the war and the battles and the warriors in it? please come forward. I've got all these tapes to give you, hundreds and hundreds of them. Other people have them too, I'm sure. And even now the mini DVs are getting obsolete. So we need to keep the memory going to spur people on so that the victory will not be forgotten.
Excuse me.
This is Will Cowing again. Today we have with us Rob Rotman, the first crew member of ADAPT Productions. And we're going back into time again. Rob, who is it you want to talk about?
Well, Mr. Roy Marcus Cone. Mr. Cone was a gentleman who was the main prosecutor in the trial of Ethel and Julius Rosenberg, the atomic spies. He and Judge, I think it was Kaufman, were very angry that Jews were communists. So Roy Cone really is the one that got them executed for being atomic spies. Now, he went on to become a very fascinating New York lawyer. He had many celebrities as his clients, one of whom was Donald J. Trump. And Mr. Trump evidently considered Roy Cone his mentor. Now, from the disability viewpoint, Roy Cone was gay. He was the kind of a person, he was very in denial of his homosexuality. But, he always went to Studio 54. He always went to the gay bars. He came down with AIDS, ended up dying with AIDS. And, I think it really showed how, the kind of denial gay people were. I think he could have done more to have helped people with AIDS, but he didn't. And so that's the kind of person he was.
Now, he was a mentor of Donald Trump.
Right.
Now, yeah, and I would say that he helped Trump get some of his world views, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Against communism, and he knew how to drop contracts, and he was just so, a self-involved person. And so I think it kind of made sense that he and Donald Trump were so tight. What is interesting about Mr. Cone, that he died of AIDS, even though he denied it. And his life is, I think, responsible for, the greatest play of the last part of the 20th century, Angels in America, by Tony Kushner, which is about people struggling with AIDS in the 80s, and uses the fictional Roy Cone as the main character. And there is this monologue in it where Mr. Cone is told he has AIDS. And his big thing is, well, how can I have AIDS? Because I have power. Gay people don't have any power. They can't even get an anti-discrimination statute on the books. So he was that mean of a person. The play was first done in the 90s, made into an extraordinary movie with Meryl Streep as Ethel Rosenberg and Al Pacino as Roy Cone, and then is currently on Broadway now. It's supposed to be a remarkable revival with Nathan Lane as Roy Cone. So I hope, given the fact that Mr. Lane has had so much success in Chicago, that he'll be able to bring it here.
Well, Roy Cone was also a very good lawyer. I don't mean...
Yeah, no.
He was a good lawyer in an evil sort of way, right?
I think he was like Ron Liebman, who played the role originally on Broadway, said, he's like Richard III. He's so charming. He can be such a snake, but he was a charming individual. And, he was kind of a, the way our good friend Jerry Lewis, the super Jew, he always read the Torah on Seder, Passover Seder. So I think it just, it's interesting. Well, I don't know if you remember, years ago we did a show about AIDS, I think in 2000, and I did a little speech from Angels in America. And you remember Rodney Zawacki?
Yes, yes.
And who had AIDS, who was HIV positive, I should say. And I remember I was doing the reading, and he was in tears. My God, is that beautiful writing, you know? Because here's Cone saying, well, you know, I'm this great lawyer. I have power no one else does. And he probably could have maybe, if he had had the Reagan's permission, made AZT more available to people with AIDS and saved more lives. So what's interesting about, I think about Mr. Cone's life is when he died, there were all these lefty magazines like The Nation, which cheered his death. Oh God, we got, excuse the expression, if I may be politically incorrect, the fag's dead. And that's what led this playwright, Tony Kushner, to write this play that, you know, a person can be that evil, and yet if his death is cheered, what does that say? So,
Well, that's an interesting point of view. Yes,
Right.
very interesting.
So-
And it's a whole analogy here is that the disability community is part of the national community.
Right.
And the national community, issues of the national community affect the disability community. We're all part of the same
right.
same world. And Cohen's life is an evil man in many senses, yet a gifted man.
Yeah, you know, and I guess when, you know, you use power for all the wrong reasons, and, you know, I know, it's like I always feel about Richard III. He was a baby once, and Adolf Hitler was once a baby once. So, you know,
Yeah, right.
how do these people become? And I guess that's our challenge is, you know, the last line of Angels in America is done by Prior Walter, who's the lead character. The great work begins. So I think that has to be our great work as a disability community. We reach out, we show compassion, and, you know, show that we're not figures of pity.
Yeah, right. And the thing is that Trump was influenced by Cohen, and it wasn't a good influence,
No.
apparently. No. I think he spoke of a lawyer that he uses, that he was his Roy Cohen. Didn't he make that comment one time?
Yeah, yeah.
So this is what the whole world is all about. I mean, and we're part of it. Everywhere. The disability community is part of this greater world and this greater world view.
Right.
All right. Is there anything else you want to add to
I
that?
think that's pretty much it. But, you know, I think it just shows the challenge we have as a community we've got to reach out, you know. Yeah.
All right. Very
Okay,
good.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you, Rob. And, all right. We'll see you all. This is Will Cowing for Adaptive Chicago Productions, and just signing off. And once again, I want to remember Gloria.
Gloria, yeah.
And Rob was right with us at the very
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah.
All right, we'll talk to you all later then.
Thank you.